This is the Real Footy Podcast. Hello and welcome to day 6 of the interminable AFL trade period. We're in the final countdown. My name is Michael Gleeson and joining me for Groundhog Day is Mark McGowan. Mark, welcome to you.
What an eventful day, Glees.
It has all happened. I can't believe that, it's not leading the news that Will Brodie was moved for pick 103.
I'm not sure I expected to talk about pick 103 in this week's trade period.
That is...
Year's trade period.
I can't recall a player... I can recall picks at the very back end of the draft week. This is a pick for listeners that Freo has very little intent of using, but it will be a pick that comes in with all the players that go out, all the picks that go out for all the academy picks that are being matched. And it could come in over 30 spots. So it could be a pick 70-something.
And you know what? Go back over the years, Nick Larkey, Mitch Lewis, they were picked in the same draft in the 70s. You can find a key forward. I mean, if you can get a guy like that, you'd be stoked.
It's funny. Someone was saying they remember doing interviews with Will Brodie during his draft year, and he was really keen to go at 1. He's now been traded for pick 100.
I mean, he was a top 10 pick, but it's been a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
God, it's been a journey for that kid. But he reunites with Josh Carr.
Yeah.
He's obviously taking over from Hinkley next year. He was the midfield coach at Fremantle when Will Brodie had a career best year out west, and obviously still thinks he's got plenty to offer. And Port Adelaide, they look like they're working on the margins, don't they? They're trying to find a way.
It's very role-playery, isn't it? They've gone, with Corey Durden coming in, Will Brodie coming in. These aren't players that are moving the dial on anything. They have had a few years of making the big trades, but this isn't one of them. These are guys that are coming in as depth.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Are they? It has 10th place written all over it, doesn't it? It really does. But at the same time, maybe Will Brodie turns into the 2022 version of himself.
We probably have skipped past a more consequential deal in Tyler Young going for a pick that is a decent pick too. What was it?
38.
38 in this year's draft at the moment.
The Tigers wanted 34.
Yeah.
And West Coast fans are up in arms. They wanted to only use a pick in the 50s. It's unbelievable. They are. If they were the list boss, no deal would ever get done.
Yeah. It's still, they'd put a few years into him, so that's one out for the Tigers. But they've already got a strong draft hand, regardless. So
finished the year well, Glees, as well.
Yeah,
I know we all laugh about he's just a fringe player and that sort of thing. But and I know we laugh about stats and all these sorts of things. But he was the 12th ranked key defender in the comp in his, I think, his last 8 or 9 games whenever he broke into Richmond's team.
For an obscure stat
to justify a position. They might be getting themselves a bargain, Glees. Who knows?
Well, they might with young Tyler. It was expected to be, even amongst not just media talking about it, but amongst the clubs, it was expected today would be the day of action after basically a weekend off for people to go away and reassess and come back and get into meaningful chats before Wednesday night's deadline. But it hasn't proven that way. So we are in a state of inertia, inaction on a range of deals. The most notable, the big 3 at the top, well, 4, I suppose, if you throw in Oliver. But Petracca will get done. The simple fact is that Gold Coast and Melbourne just didn't meet today. I think they will meet tomorrow. And
that one at least seems to have the crux of a deal as well.
I think it seems to be agreed in principle. Those two top 10 picks will be
7 and 8.
Yeah, they will be the guts of a deal. But then to go through with that, Gold Coast still needs some picks back in the 20s to be able to safeguard the welter of academy players they've got coming in that they need to match points for this year.
And Melbourne has that 24 that they received off Fremantle for Judd McVie. That's the pick that seems to be the one they want back. It's the highest pick they have in the 20s. Melbourne fans might sit there and go, look, we're basically trading Petracca and Judd McVie for 7 and 8. Might not seem amazing in a compromised draft that'll probably push out to 11, 12 with those 2 picks. But you know what? Sometimes you got to take what's the best offer in front of you, and that right now is the best offer.
Well, and maybe you can turn one of those top 10 picks into another player, even at this late stage of the draft.
You could, or you could bundle the 2 together and move up. Who knows? There's all sorts of possibilities.
I suspect that the haggling starts now for Melbourne and Gold Coast, and it will be over that. It'll be over that pick that you mentioned, but it could also be slides of picks. So give us that. You can have the picks in the second round, but we just need to move up because we need those points. And it's an easier sell if you're Gold Coast to Melbourne to do that when they've already got a bunch of picks in the 20s. So, well, look, all of these are going to come out. So even though you're looking at that pick as being pick 32 or 34 or whatever it is that that Melbourne might get, that's actually going to come into a pick in the early 20s because all of our picks there will be matching points. So they come out. So this pick is a lot better than it looks on paper.
Correct.
So that, I suspect something will happen there. There's Curnow.
Does it get Dungalis? It's a really interesting one.
I thought all along it would, from multiple sources, and full disclosure, not from Sydney today, but a lot of industry talk that there's a real salary cap pinch with the negotiations as well. And I think that there was an expectation that a couple of players might be prepared to go out that would be of value to help get the deal done, and in doing so would also provide the salary cap relief to get the deal done. And it feels like without them going out, they can't just do a deal on draft picks because they won't have the salary cap space to do it, let alone have the suitable hand of draft picks. So it's a bit stickier than it appeared. I think something involving Ollie Florent. I think Florent's come around to the idea that he'd move. I still have a feeling Will Hayward might be persuaded to move, only because it's the same management group, and it's there feels like there'd be some goodwill there. And
those two are good friends.
Yeah,
they're very, very good friends, those two. So potentially you could convince them. Yes, you're good mates, but you're actually not going to get split up. You go to Victoria, you can start again, keep your business going, and you can start a new life in Victoria. But look, there's still a lot to play out clearly in that deal and whether it's going to happen or not.
Then we move on to some others. We've got obviously we mentioned Petracca. We've got Zach Merritt. And
I remember us talking almost exactly, a week ago, and you didn't think it was going to happen. No. And I was sort of saying, why would Essendon do it? But it looks like there's just a little bit of Essendon weighing it up whether they might actually do this.
No, I disagree.
I reckon you're still adamant this will not happen.
I think it's an intransigent board that they won't entertain it now. I don't think Hawthorn has been able to come up with the sort of deal that could turn Essendon's head. The first round pick this year.
That'll be the best of any pick they're going to have in the
pick next year. The first round, their future pick next year. If they get Merritt in, they could win the flag.
Yep.
So that's the end of first round. That's not a particularly sexy arrangement to offer.
It is not.
For Zach Merritt, you go, okay, well, we've helped deliver your flag and we've got back, inadequate compensation. So I don't think. And I don't think there's been a player that's been connected to them that's in any way.
I think Cam McKenzie, if they could convince him to move, he's a top 10 pick. That's effectively a top 10 pick. It's a midfielder. Obviously, Merritt's a midfielder. I know it's not the same calibre, and I know McKenzie didn't finish the year in the side, but he does come with top 10 currency.
I don't think they're prepared to even entertain that, though.
I don't think they probably will, but I think Hawthorn need to find a way to at least tempt them. And if it means overpaying, they need to maybe go and find. I think there's been a little bit of talk around trying to bring another future pick in.
Well,
whether they
for
can
me,
get an
it's as simple
one.
as this. When you're weighing up players, and yes, there are soft factors in all these where there's the player that you can say he's a leader of the club and he's this and that and he's washes the dishes. You can look at players and say, well, if Merritt came in and that player went out, would we be a better team? And when you get to that arrangement, that's when you've got to be able to make a decision on a player and say, well, we have to be prepared to move this player because we will be better with Merritt in. So how many players fit that bill? There aren't a huge number because there are some that are going to be obviously off the cards. They've said no to Weddle. They've said no to Will Day, Culture Deer. And then there's others that are just don't fit what Essendon would want anyway, either for age profile or ability. So there's not a huge pool of them at Essendon at Hawthorn that would really sit with what would persuade them. But I just don't see that. I don't think Essendon has the hasn't had the appetite to do it from the start, and nothing that they've said so far has shifted that. And I think that even if the board, even if the executive and the football department were of a mind to do it, I don't think the board is. So that was another thing. Jake wrote a piece last week saying that the board would have to sign off on any deal.
Friday.
That gave Hawthorn a bit of
hope. Yeah,
because they thought, oh, okay, they are thinking about it then. If they're saying don't do a deal without talking to us first, I think that it was actually the other way. It's saying it was almost putting the footy department on notice. Don't you go talking about a trade with them because we would be signing off on anything and we're not doing it. So I just don't see it's going to happen.
See, my thinking on this is, look, like I said a week ago, Essendon does not come out of this better without Zach Merritt. But if I'm Hawthorn, let's just forget about Essendon for the moment. If I'm Hawthorn, I'm right on the verge of winning a flag. They've won a final at least in the past 2 years. They've got some guys like Tom Barrass, James Sicily, Carl Amon, Gunston. They're all in their 30s or very close to. Hardwick's close to 30. They might be young, but they've got very key contributors at the top who are near the ends of closer to the end of their career. Yeah. It's go time. Find a way to get this done.
And that's certainly their logic. But they just can't. And that's why they've gone hard at it.
But that's why they've got to go even harder, maybe.
Maybe. But this is the first time today I spoke with someone at Hawthorn that said, the first time they were entertaining doubts. They were thinking, because they've thought all along, it'll happen. And I think someone there today was a bit like, it's getting a bit doubtful now. But
still time.
No, absolutely there is. And meanwhile, Essendon's also, they're still going to talk about Fiorini, bringing him in from Gold Coast. They haven't really spoken meaningfully with the Gold Coast in a couple of days on that, and I suspect that they'll do that in the next day or so. That'll be, I should imagine, also a pick slide. They'll give up a pick in the 20, I think either 27 or 30, something like that, and maybe slide to 30, get 36 or 40 or something back.
Which will help the Suns.
Match compile more of those points. Yeah. Other deals, really, Buku Kamas, I don't know whether that gets there. Logically, I think that trade ends up being done. Connor Buderick, you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I thought Buderick was going to get done today. I was a bit surprised that he didn't. Obviously, the Bulldogs in that pick swap they got done with the Giants, they secured 37, which isn't the 33 that the Suns initially wanted for him. But I just genuinely thought that was going to get done. That was my information. But I can't imagine that slips into Wednesday. I think that probably gets done tomorrow, considering there was confidence it would happen today.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're prepared to do that. I mean, for the Suns, it's all about compiling points, and he's a player that they know, you've got to lose some to get some points and picks, and I think he'll be one of those. Tomorrow, we suspect, should finally be moving day, if today isn't. Today was static day. We have got some questions. We've got a question from Martin, who says, is it possible that some of the higher profile deals, Oliver, Petracca and Curnow, have all been agreed to in principle, but the AFL and AFL media have told the clubs to keep quiet in order to maintain intrigue? Or the club with the superstar is holding off agreeing to give the impression they have held out for the best possible deal, which I hinted at in my column at the weekend, apparently. Referencing me. Which
the funniest part about that, before we answer this, not only the AFL media, apparently. Cal Toomey is
everyone is in on the
and said, "Don't you dare!"
I think to be fair, it's a good conspiracy theory, Martin. But I think that half of what you say, I think I certainly agree with, because I wrote about it in a column that at the weekend, which is that these deals not only have to be good, they have to be good for you. They have to be seen to be good. So I don't think, say on merit, I don't think that getting Hawthorn's good pick this year, but next year's will be a pretty late first. That's not a saleable deal to your membership when your captain's leaving. So I don't see that as a deal that turns their head. I don't see anything out of Sydney at the moment that's really going to get to Carlton fans. Oh, we've won well out of that. Whereas Petracca, you can look at it and go, yep, 2 top 10 picks. Yeah.
Especially when they've collected some young talent in recent years as well. We can add to that group,
they're in the different situation where they've had 2 or 3 years of this uncertainty around these 2 star players in Oliver and Petracca, and they've said, stuff this, line in the sand, and they're making that cultural sort of shift on them, and a list transition.
New coach, all that
new
sort
coach,
of stuff.
Yeah. So I think that's more likely, but no, these deals aren't agreed in principle. Certainly not on other than on. I think Oliver and Petracca probably are the most likely to be in principle agreed.
There is no doubt, though, that the AFL wants to see some of these deals, especially these big names with, go right down to the wire. But I think, as you said, there's no way some of these deals are agreed in principle.
No, but there is a
quiet encouragement for it to delay and drag out.
Fairly commercial imperative to have deals being talked about and pushed around. The players are the pawns in that. Julian also asks, Everyone is saying that the Lions will be even stronger next year, but is that really the case? The loss of Calamachi, Big O, Starcevich and Robertson, with Allen, Draper and Annabelle coming in, seems pretty even at best. Also, lots of big injury players may not come back. Kitty Coleman, Link McCarthy, Eric Hipwood have all missed huge chunks, and the first two might be like Doty, struggling to be the player they were. Draper, Ainsworth and Payne too have had major injuries. Yes, there is that. I think that they've shown the capacity to overcome a lot of those injuries and losses. And the fact is that Fletcher, the two Ashcrofts, they're young. They're the growth is coming naturally and organically.
Best football is absolutely ahead. And Devon Robertson's played 6 games in 2 years.
Yeah.
Let's not count him on that list.
No, he doesn't change. He would
Big O was cooked
anyway.
as well. His body was cooked. Draper's a big upgrade on him.
Well, if he gets out there, Draper hasn't shown a great durability either.
No, he hasn't. But I mean, God, geez, Big O wasn't bringing anything next year.
No.
He was done.
No.
He was done. He was close to done throughout the whole year.
Darcy Fort played well in the finals. So.
He did, but it's Darcy Fort.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. Like he's an honest toiler, and I think Draper's got the ability to be a bit more than that.
Yeah, he could be.
Calamachi and Starcevich are definitely losses, no doubt about that.
What do you forecast for tomorrow?
I'd just like to see some movement, and it's not even just if a deal happens. I want to see that there's actually wheels in motion on some of these big deals. I mean, you look back to one of those days last week where I think there was like only 2 or 3 deals, but it was the St Kilda pulled out of the Leckerlear deal. There were, Geelong offering 3 picks for Curnow. There was a lot happening. We just need to see that the wheels are in motion and that we're setting up for a blockbuster finish on Wednesday, and that some of these deals.
I'd like to see what we hinted at before. I'd like to see the Petracca deal to get done in the morning. Oliver gets done, and Melbourne goes, right, now we've got these picks.
I was told Oliver won't get done till Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying what I'd like to see, not what will happen. I'd like to see that, and I'd like to see them actually go, no worries if you want to just hit the draft, bundle those picks up and go again, but actually go, can we be cheeky here and just throw something at someone right, in the final 24 hours?
Come throw a name.
I don't know.
Shy,
I don't know. There's other mids, there's other players around there. You could go, here's a top 10 pick. Would that do it for you?
Can only ask.
There's players that are there.
Nick Dacos got asked about. Anyone can get asked about.
Well, you lose Petracca and Geordie De Goey sitting there at Collingwood. He's contracted, but
there we go. We've got ourselves in that.
Well, you could ask the question, couldn't you?
You can.
You'd probably get a no, but
and that might unlock
sort of
the
thing,
Jai Simpkin deal, maybe.
Jai Simpkin deal. Yeah, it could do. It could. All right, that is all we've got time for today because there's been so much going on. We will have 2 different podcasters in the chair tomorrow. They will be a step down, but try to work your way through it with Andrew Wu and Peter Mumbler Ryan. Ahead of the trade period finale on Wednesday. If you've got questions or suggestions for our podcast during trade week, you can email us. You've heard from today. We do read them out. realfootypod@theage.com.au. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts.